There is a growing international push to investigate allegations Israeli troops intentionally attacked people waiting for aid in Gaza City. Gaza's health ministry says more than 100 people were killed when Israeli soldiers opened fire on refugees who swarmed a food convoy in Gaza City. Israel is defending itself, saying there was an imminent threat to their troops. CBS News foreign correspondent Imtiaz Tyab is in Tel Aviv. Imtiaz, so many questions surrounding this. Israel's accounts of the shooting seem to evolve over the course of the day. You spoke with the IDF about this. What did they tell you?
Elaine, good to be with you. That's right. We spoke with a senior IDF spokesperson who basically said that the majority of those who were killed on Thursday at that aid convoy were those who were killed because they were trampled or because of a stampede, or that they were run over by these trucks in this convoy as they sped off. Now, we've been speaking to health officials inside Gaza who have a very different story. They say that 80% of those who have come in either wounded or dead have been because of bullet wounds and because of shrapnel. Now, we've seen footage from the early hours of Thursday morning in which you could hear the crackle of gunfire as people had gathered around that convoy and then started running away. As you can imagine, a very chaotic scene, a huge number of casualties. Now, the Israelis, of course, saying that they were not involved. They only admit to opening fire in what they described as a small group of people that they say posed a threat to them. But again, from the images that we've been seeing coming out of Gaza, and indeed from those health officials and eyewitnesses inside Gaza, they paint a very different picture in which one man described it as a trapped, and as the Palestinian president Mahmoud Abbas described as a heinous massacre. Elaine.
So, Imtiaz, against that backdrop, President Biden continues to push for a ceasefire and a hostage release deal. Are the two sides any closer to an agreement, and what are the sticking points?
Yeah, President Biden conceding that the events of Thursday, in which so many civilians were killed, will really make this hostage negotiation deal, this ceasefire deal, that much more difficult. Now, those talks are ongoing, but they are shaky. They are not in a good place right now. And it's very difficult, not least for those inside Gaza who are so desperate for a ceasefire, who are so desperate for aid, but also for hostage families. We met with a hostage family the other day as they were marching from southern Israel all the way to Jerusalem to ensure that their leaders come up with a deal because they want to see their loved ones freed, and yet it doesn't appear as if a deal is close. We've also been speaking to an Israeli member of parliament, or Knesset as it's known, who said that a deal needs to be reached before the Muslim holy month of Ramadan, which is around the 10th of March. She said that if that doesn't happen, that tensions here in Israel, the occupied West Bank, and potentially across the wider Middle East could inflame. Elaine.
So Gaza's Ministry of Foreign Affairs is calling for sanctions on Israel for yesterday's shooting. Imtiaz, has that gained any traction or support internationally?
At this stage, no. But what I can tell you, Elaine, is that there are growing calls globally for a very serious and independent investigation as to what happened in Gaza on Thursday at that aid convoy. And we need to make it clear, this is one of the few aid convoys that has been able to move its way through Gaza. People are starving in Gaza. The United Nations says 500,000 people face acute famine. 500,000. Well, why is this happening? Well, Israel controls all of Gaza's land borders. Egypt, of course, is involved in the south, but Israel has a very strong presence there as well. And since the 9th of October, Israel's military leaders said that they would not allow any aid into Gaza. Now, we've seen some come in, but very, very little. In fact, in the last month, we've seen 50% less aid into Gaza than the month before, and that is only contributing to the desperation and the starvation. Elaine.
Imtiaz Tyab. Imtiaz, thank you.